direction of the Baochu Pagoda, along what is now Beishan Road, you would have seen quite a number of grand houses and estates. Of course, these were the homes of rich and powerful people. The rich and powerful have much better access to information than ordinary people, and so long before the Japanese began their bombing campaign, they upped sticks and left. Once the Japanese had established their puppet government in Nanjing, and the situation in Hangzhou had stabilized, as if by magic, they reappeared. In some cases they sent their servants instead to look after their properties and make sure that no one from the occupying regime requisitioned them. One such property was a mansion that stood with its back to the mountains and its face to the lake. Its owner was a man named Tan, a one-time gangster who'd taken advantage of the chaotic wartime situation to leave his criminal past behind him. He bought the land and built a house, which soon became famous far and wide. People called it the Tan Estate. Maybe it was just too attractive, just too well known, because during the occupation it was swiftly requisitioned and then handed over to the puppet regime's newly created East China Counterinsurgency Corps, the ECCC. And so its buildings were put to new use. In the front courtyard was a 3-story building that Mr. Tan had designed as a tea house and restaurant. This was now transformed into an ECCC officers' club cum pleasure dome, where every fleshy desire could be satisfied. Anything went, and the place swarmed with prostitutes. Behind it, within a forest of bamboo, stood a C-shaped building that had originally been the servants' quarters, but was now used as office space. If you kept on walking, you reached the rear courtyard, where a pair of small Western-style houses stood facing one another. The one to the west became the private residence of the ECCC's commander, Tian Huyi, while the one to the east was where he met his visitors and accommodated a handful of his cronies and aides. Since these buildings had once been the residences of Mr. Tan and his family, they were beautifully appointed and very luxurious. When Tian Huyi moved in, he realized how right he had been to throw in his lot with the Japanese. At this time, the political situation in China was extremely complicated. In the northeast there was Manchukuo, while in the southeast there was the reorganized national government, based in Nanjing and led by the collaborationist Chinese official Wang Jingwei. Both of these areas were under Japanese control. They were puppet regimes of the Japanese state and were entirely dependent on the Japanese for protection. So naturally, they did what they were told. There were also 2 anti-Japanese regimes centered elsewhere in the country. The nationalist Kuomintang or KMT government was based in Chongqing, in the southwest, and was headed by Chiang Kai-shek, while the communist government was based in Yan'an in the northwest and was headed by Mao Zedong. The nationalists and the communists both considered resisting Japanese aggression to be in the national interest, so they established a united front to fight the enemy together. But they also had their own antithetical preoccupations and aims, and their apparently united front actually concealed deep rifts. In reality, each side acted entirely out of self-interest, cutting the ground from beneath the other's feet. This complex political situation meant that the whole country was in chaos, and the lives of many of its people became unbearably difficult. In Hangzhou, Japanese military control was relatively weak at this point, and the city also had good transport links with nearby Shanghai and Nanjing. Both the nationalists and the communists exploited this to their advantage, and Hangzhou became a focus for underground operations conducted by both sides. The nationalist agents were providing intelligence for the Bureau of Military Statistics, while the communist agents were running covert missions on behalf of their Yan'an headquarters. As a result, the city's anti-Japanese resistance movement had strengthened considerably.